I'm David Nurse, and I will be performing Toby and the Gettysburg Address by Margaret Cable Self. There was going to be a celebration at school to honor Lincoln and the new principal that had just been taken on. Each room was supposed to do something at the celebration. Some of the younger grades were putting on skits from famous books. Our room had it easy because we have an Italian girl who can play the accordion real well. In Toby's room, all the boys had to learn the Gettysburg Address. The one who said it the best was to get to say it at the celebration. Now, if there's anything Toby hates to do, it's to memorize. He just can't seem to do it. Somehow, the words don't stick. Miss McIntyre, that's Toby's room teacher, said that they all had to learn it. She said it only took 2 minutes and 10 seconds to recite it with expression, and that any nitwit could memorize it in a half hour. Toby said, I must be a nitwit then, because I've studied it every night for a week, and all I can remember is 77 years ago, our fathers, and then I get stuck. Miss McIntyre said, well, how do you study? I just read it over and over to myself. So Miss McIntyre told him that wasn't the right way to study. She said he ought to repeat it out loud and try to get the rhythm and swing of it. So Toby said he might as well try her way. He couldn't lose. But he didn't just say it out loud. He shouted it. Mom didn't have any trouble keeping track of him all that week. She finally had to make him quit practicing in the house because it annoyed Dad. So most of his practicing was done in the barn, especially while he was milking. Toby said he thought the teacher was right about trying to get the rhythm and swing of the Gettysburg Address. But he didn't say it. And he said that when he said it in time to the sound of the milk squirting in the pails and put in a bullseye on a cat at the end of each sentence, it made it a whole lot easier. I was most always feeding the horses at the time Toby milked, and I could hear him up in the loft, plain as day, even with the racket the horses made, kicking and whinnying. You'd hear the spurt, spurt of the milk, and then, we cannot dedicate, spurt, spurt. We cannot consecrate, spurt, spurt. We cannot hollow this ground, bullseye. At the end of 3 or 4 days, Toby could say it fine, as long as he was pulling away on Betsy. But as soon as he tried it without her, he got stuck. I said in that case, why didn't he tie a piece of clothes rope to the front of his belt so there'd be 2 ends hanging down under his coat, and he could just grab hold of those and pretend they were Betsy. I told him he could stand behind the teacher's desk and nobody would notice. So when Friday came, Toby went off with his piece of rope. I could hardly wait till after school to see how he got along. He got on the bus at 3 o'clock without saying a word. And when he got home, he went straight to his room and locked the door. Toby's always like that when he's mad. He won't talk. Azaline was baking gingerbread. I got her to give me some, and I took it up to Toby, and I knocked on his door. I said, you'd better have some of this good gingerbread while it's hot, Toby. So he opened the door, and I took it in. After he had eaten, he felt better. I'm sorry things didn't go so well. They went okay. Well, did the rope work? I guess so. Anyhow, I didn't make any mistakes. Well, I guess you're glad it's over then. That's the trouble. It isn't over. I have to say the old thing at the celebration. So then I knew at last what real trouble he was in. Because if there's anything Toby hates worse than memorizing, it's getting up in front of a whole crowd of strangers and reciting. Didn't you tell Miss McIntyre you didn't want to say it at the celebration? Sure, and a lot of good that day. All she said was that I mustn't be so modest. She said she had perfect confidence in me. Well, after all, she's new. This is her first year here. Maybe it won't be so bad. You got through it okay today. Yeah, but today I had the rope to help me out. I just stood up there and pretended I was pulling on old Betsy and forgot about the class and everything was swell. Can't you do the same thing at the celebration? How can I? There won't be any desk to stand behind up there on the platform. Well, you still have a week. Maybe you'll know it so well by that time, you won't need the rope. No! It'll take all my time trying to keep from forgetting it in the next week, let alone learning it better. Well, I thought about it and thought about it, but I couldn't seem to get any idea until the day before the celebration, and then the answer came. It was so simple, I don't see why I hadn't thought about it before. There isn't any law that says you can't hold your hands behind your back when you're reciting, is there? No? Well, how about tying the rope to the back of your belt instead of the front? His face lit up like a lighthouse. Hey, you've got something there. Wait, and I'll see if it works. So I got the rope and tied it on and started in. 7 years ago, it worked great. The celebration was in the big auditorium, and just about everybody in town went. First came the speeches, which were pretty boring. Then, Miss McElhenney sang some patriotic songs, and a little girl from Miss Spence's room did the scene from Through the Looking Glass. It was the scene where Alice is talking to the cat in front of the mirror, and it was fine. They had a real mirror, a big one, and a real cat, a little one. Toby came on next. He didn't seem a bit scared, just walked up calm as could be, all slicked up in his best blue suit. I knew he hadn't forgotten the rope, because I could see just a tiny end of it hanging down, but I don't think anybody else noticed it. Well, he marched up to the front of the stage, made a low bow, put his hands behind his back, and started in, the words coming smooth and even. I was glad, seeing old Toby up there spouting his piece, as peaceful as if he was in the stall working on Betsy. But I didn't stay that long. No, I didn't. Because he hadn't been talking more than 10 seconds before I saw something neither of us had thought of or would have thought of in a million years. They hadn't taken the mirror, and there he was, right in front of it. From the front, he looked solemn as a judge. But when you looked in the mirror, you could see his hands pumping up and down, with a sort of sideways squirt at the end of his sentence. Boy, oh boy, did he look funny. Even I could hardly help laughing. I hoped at first that maybe nobody else would notice. Or if they did, they wouldn't realize what he was doing. But there's something about the way you use your fingers when you milk which just can't be mistaken for anything else. He got as far as, "It is very fitting and proper that we should do this," when the first snicker came. Then there was another, and then somebody way over on the side let out a moo! And that was the end. The place just rocked. Toby stopped short, turned red as a beet, and walked off. The rope still hanging down behind.